This is what we do every week, helping people out, diving a little bit deeper in that, talking about clearing, cleansing some of those things from your bodies, from your energy.
This is more my space. So Zach's more real estate space. I'm more in the energetics.
And you should listen to her because she's really freaking smart when it comes to these things.
He is like the happiest, most positive person that I know. So much so I'm like, is this real? Like, but it is.
I'm an expert in creative finance. Love creative finance. Talk to Space Off about that and all the wonderful things with that. Mindset and raising private capital.
I'm an energy healer. I teach intuitive development and spiritual mentor. And I help people learn about themselves and how to use their energy and the energy around them to create realities that they really enjoy and want.
Whatever comes up for you guys. That's the point. That's the beauty of you guys showing up here live for everything, is that we want to answer your questions. We want to dive deeper into your examples. We want to help you specifically. Awesome. Hello, everybody. Happy Monday. We are back. Oh, love it. We are back with an extra little hand and arm and everything. Woo. So, oh my gosh. So if you don't know us, I'm Zach. This is Monique, my wife, and we love sharing everything about energy and mindset and energetic alignment. And if you guys don't know what that is, it's just like all this fun stuff that's around us. We can harness the energy of it and we can make awesomeness happen. So you check out our other episodes if you want to learn more about that, because we love teaching, we love helping, we love making our world wonderful around us, for ourselves, for everyone. Yeah. And so usually we were talking about chakras.
We were talking about chakras, and then I gave birth
because we were waiting for a baby to come out of somewhere. Stork, I don't know, delivery guy, Amazon, that'd be great, right? Wish I could just order a little baby or maybe return it, maybe. I don't know.
Oh my goodness.
Not this one though. Holy smokes. This one, and she was amazing. If you guys have ever done anything like this, had a natural birth at home in a pool with some midwives, and supportive people like myself there as well. See the whole thing. Hey, baby Mav. There we go.
Yeah. So we have gotten a lot of requests and questions about the birth story. So we figured we would just do a video about it and address it. And
it's awesome.
Talk
it's amazing.
About it on here.
It is. It's wild too.
And we will continue
Nothing I ever knew about.
with the mindset and energetics in the next week or two, depending if this will be a 1-part or a 2-part video. But so we'll pick up with the chakras, finish out that series, and then move into another series in the coming weeks. So today we're going to talk about our birth story of this little guy and just kind of the stuff that led up to it. So if you guys are live with us, feel free to say hey. If you're watching the replay, feel free to say hey.
Comment wherever you're at. Give us the hearts, the loves, the laughs. If someone makes a good joke or not,
let us know if you make a good joke or not.
Yeah. Hey, Julie. What's up?
Hey, Julie.
Absolutely. Thank you. Yeah,
and
super excited.
Hopefully some of the stuff that we talk about today, like if it resonates with you in a different area of life, take it. If it doesn't, leave it. But just with some of the mindset shifts that I had to undergo, that Zach had to undergo leading up to my birth, and then just the process of birth, I would love to... Well, we're going to share them with you, but I would love for you to just take them and apply them to any other area of your life as well. So yeah, I guess that we'll just get started, and we'll start with,
Hey,
Erica.
Hey,
everybody.
What's up?
Oh yeah. I don't know if I said this already because I still kind of have like mom brain, but if you have specific questions about the birth process or anything like that, let us know. What were you going to say, babe? Sorry.
Baby Maverick. That's his name. Little Maverick.
Baby
so, hey,
Maverick.
Mav.
Yeah.
Hey, Mav.
Yeah. So, okay, let's start first with just me telling you that I wanted to do a home birth and a water birth. Yeah. What your thought process was, because being a man, I think that Zach's education of birth up until the past couple of months were movies.
Yeah, well, I mean, that's where you learn what happens in a delivery room, because I haven't been in a delivery room yet. So
Yeah.
and that's how babies are delivered. You wouldn't put them in the incinerator. You'd have them in the birthing room. So yeah, I never really thought about having a child at home. I guess because I've never necessarily been with someone also that would ever like find that information, seek that out, and then want to do that, because there's so many awesome benefits about it that nobody tells you about. Like nobody tells you about all these things that happen. And so it's super, super beneficial. I could talk to you about that for a while, but yeah. And so I didn't know what to expect. So for me, I'm just like, it's a cleansing, it's a clearing so that I don't have any other hangups and that we're communicating well. And I'm just ready for whatever the heck we need to do.
I feel like you were pretty much on board when I told you I wanted to have a home birth.
Yeah, I'm like, that's funky, that's cool, whatever. And I'm like, I'm really not doing most of the work, but whatever my role would be, I bet, it would be easier than your role.
Yeah. Yeah. So I know how babies are made.
I know how babies are made. Heck yeah.
We know how babies are made, but getting babies earthside.
Yeah.
There's a lot of confusion around that. Like I, for one, didn't even know that I had a mucus plug that supposedly was released before the baby came. I didn't lose my mucus plug.
New vocabulary you learn.
Yeah, it's just crazy. Like what you're not exposed to until you're in it, and you have to learn it. But yeah, so for anybody watching this, like I experienced something that I feel like isn't talked about a lot. And I had a lot of prenatal depression, and I didn't even know what it was. And I didn't really understand what was going on at first. I just was crying to Zac a lot. And a lot of it had to do with the changes that my body was undergoing, and just not being as energized as I once was, and not being as motivated. And I'm typically a very type A driven person. And so having to take a step back was a little bit hard mentally. But like you guys saw, Zac trained me for my first half marathon, month 5. But then when my third trimester came around, things really got intense for me. And my emotional and mental health, definitely was not the best. And Zac obviously was there for a lot of it and was a great support, but I don't think that is talked about a lot, the prenatal depression side of things, because I would get very anxious, I would get very depressed, and it was back and forth for the 3 months. And something that I had to face with that was I had to decide if I was going to just let it overrule my life at the time, or if I could do what I could to make today as good as it could be, right? Knowing that it wasn't going to be the best day ever. It wasn't going to even come close to a great day that I've had. But what could I do in this moment to make this as good as it can be for the mental and the emotional state that I was in at the time? And that really did help get me through part of that third trimester, because there were days where I would just break down to Zac or my sister and just cry. Even before some of these live streams, I would cry. But then I would ask myself, what would make this better? And Zac would always encourage me, okay, well, do you think that what you really want is to not do this? Then I would do it, and I would always feel better. So it's really easy to make decisions when you're in a low emotional space or even a high emotional space, and then regret those decisions later, because you're not making them out of a space of neutrality, and you're not making them from a space of connecting to your intuition. You're making them more from a space of the emotional charge, whether that be a low emotional charge or a high emotional charge. Both of those can impact you later down the road. We've all made plans with people when we're in a really good mood, only to regret those plans the following week. We're like, fuck, why'd I do that? So I definitely believe that you're not going to have great days all the time. And whether you're pregnant or trying to get pregnant, or you experience prenatal depression as well, depression and anxiety can happen to anybody at any time. And if you're in those states, don't try to have your best day ever, but definitely ask, what can I do right now to make this as good as it can get? right? And that's what basically I did every single day until I gave birth.
Yeah, it's true. I mean, and I don't know whether it was a story, a self-fulfilling prophecy or whatever, but she said, she basically cries every day during the third trimester for sure, during the pregnancy. But, lots of things were building up, and just for you to be able to tell yourself you can have that release is nice, because then you can flush it out as opposed to continually bottling up and bottling it up. I could only imagine, because you handled it real well from everything. Yeah, I imagine
and
you were just listening to your body slowing down. But
yes, and that's the thing, is like I was trying to listen to my body, let my body have the emotional release. But this is the thing, is I was judging myself, and I know if I was judging myself, that so many of you judge yourself when you're in an emotional spiral, right? Because I'm very self-aware. I knew I'm emotional. I know I need support, but I feel like I'm too emotional. I feel like this is the nth day in a row that I've cried. Like, Zach's going to get annoyed with me. My sister's going to get annoyed with me. Like, they're sick of me saying the same thing over and over again, even though it was my experience that I was having. So I was playing that story in my mind, and I had to get over those stories that I was spiraling into and ask for support. And so if you are playing those stories in your mind of I'm too emotional, or this is too hard, or I can't do this, or they're annoyed with me, the thing that you need to do is get to the other side of that story. So, okay, this is the story, but what do I need to do to get to the other side of it? I need to ask for support. I need to, even if I feel annoyed with myself, I have to tell someone that I feel annoyed. I feel annoying, but I just want to tell you that I feel annoying and I need this help.
There you go.
Right?
That's
Speak to
good.
how you're feeling. People think that they need to know exactly what to say. No, you just need to know. Sometimes I would literally just tell Zach, like, I don't know how I'm feeling, but I feel like I'm a burden, or I feel like I'm annoying you.
And at least in that moment, I can be like, okay, something is different, because I wouldn't know necessarily otherwise.
Yeah.
So there's communication there, and that's awesome. And then I can, start talking to her about it, and she can, help tease those things out herself to figure out what it is. But even just, getting that out, because I mean, as a guy, I always felt that I had to figure things out. Like, the buck stopped with me. So, it was harder for me to ask for help. And so, just handle it. And then if I couldn't, I'll just bottle it up.
Yeah. So Beth, I'm actually feeling great now. I have not experienced any postpartum depression.
She's been super happy with everything for the most part.
I'm definitely exhausted, and hold on one second. Come here, buddy. I'm definitely exhausted and sleep deprived, and I have cried for sure, but it's just like moments of exhaustion where I cry. But overall, I've been feeling really, really good. I feel very connected to Mav, and like more in love with Zach, and my body, although my body is definitely different right now. And I recognize my mind wanting to race to when you're going to have your pre-birth body back, when you're going to get it back. You're never going to get it back. Look at all the weight you're still carrying. Look at the extra skin you're still carrying. Even though I've already lost like almost 30 pounds, it's kind of crazy how fast you lose weight after giving birth. And it's just, and how different, even like the size of my nipples right now, because I had no idea how big your nipples get when you got pregnant. But how big they are now, I'm just like, oh my gosh, are they ever going to go back to normal? Like, my mind will create those thoughts. But I think I've developed the capacity to hold space for those fears and still understand that I don't have to hurry up and get my body back. I don't have to hurry up and rebound. That was really big for me, is like feeling like I needed to rebound ASAP. Like, a week after Mav was here, I'm trying to do everything around the house. I want to go for walks. His parents were here, and his mom's like, you need to chill, basically. She's like, you need to chill. Zach can help. I can help. And so that was a really big thing of just me taking a break and letting myself rest. But mentally, because I can't exercise right now, I'm really focusing on what positive aspects of each day can I focus on?
Yeah.
Like the little things that I get done. Mav smiling after he's done breastfeeding. He always gets a little smirk after he's done breastfeeding. He's milk drunk. It's so cute. Or even his little hands, or even just the way he latches onto my nipple is hilarious.
Crazy.
And little things like that are like how nice it is to see blue skies, or waking up with Zach, or because I'm always awake before him since I'm feeding Mav at like 5 a.m. I'll look at Zach and appreciate him. So I'm finding different ways to keep my mind busy because I can't exercise and use that as an outlet right now. And we just went for our first walk yesterday.
Yeah.
And that was really nice, even though it was a very short walk. And my mind's like, you literally only walked maybe 2 miles.
I think it was 2 miles, but
Yeah.
I mean, we were all terrain even. Come on. I think that was a great walk.
Yeah. But I really, and also one big thing is like, because there have been times where it's been really bad, I don't hold those in. I tell Zach, and Zach's been great at holding space for me, and just letting me know how he supports me.
You know, and even understanding the term holding space, like she was saying, mucus plug. There's so many different terms, but they're very descriptive and they're helpful when you're communicating with other people, just because when she complimented me on that towards the beginning of our relationship, that was her way of explaining to me what holding space meant. And, you know, I kind of learned patience more and more, but just being able to have that in a relationship is really nice, and to respect that from each other too.
Yeah.
And then when she can, it's just like, all right, we can figure this out together. We can both bring ourselves down from this elevated state of anxious energy, like fearful energy, whatever it might be.
Because I think there have been times where we've both been projecting onto each other of like our own anxiousness.
Everybody projects things, right? And so you have to learn. That's the self-aware type of thing of when you're doing it, so that you can preemptively maybe not do it eventually, but definitely learn to catch yourself, and even more so say, I'm sorry to someone, and learn from it. But
yeah. And Julie, to your point, it's great that you don't need to fix it. And really nothing ever needs fixed, because if you think something needs fixed about you, then you're assuming that something is broken, and nothing is broken. Nothing is ever not enough or not whole or broken, and just like not complete, right? Because that's what something needing fixed implies, is that it's not complete. It's not working the way it should. It's not whole. And so if we say like, I need to fix this about myself, then that's what you're implying. And nothing is ever like that. It's just, we have areas that need a little more love, and we don't know necessarily how to give those areas or those parts of us the love that it needs. And until we're faced with an opportunity to communicate to someone else or to navigate that area ourselves, we don't even know that it exists. And this is like when what I've really, really had to come to terms with is asking for support. And there's been so many times I've asked Zach, are you annoyed? Are you annoyed with me that I'm asking you this? Are you annoyed with me that I'm asking you to do this? Like, I think once he came up into the bedroom like 3 different times within like 15 minutes. And one of them was because I was taking a bath with Mav. And the first bath that we gave Mav was awful.
Oh my
He
gosh.
hated every second of it. So the second time I'm like, okay, let me try to take a bath with him. I'll just nurse him while we're in the bath together. It was great. He was so happy. So I called Zach upstairs and he came up. I was like, are you annoyed that you're up here? I just wanted you to see how cute this is. And of course he's not annoyed. Of course he would want to see that. But I have those thoughts in the back of my head. I don't need to fix it. There's nothing that needs fixed. It's just loving it. It's giving that part of you that love, letting someone else love the parts of you that you think need fixed, because that's how we drown shame, is through love and compassion. And so when Zach sees those sides of me, or when I see those sides of him, we allow those parts to heal a little bit more.
Yeah,
right?
healing quickly with all of that too. I love that. So
yeah, and we're not fixing anything. Yeah, Zach can listen to and try to not fix how I feel. And that's another thing, is like that fixing thing is a very masculine trait. Men want to fix things.
Yeah,
the masculine wants to fix things.
I try to stricken that
that
word from my vocabulary, just because, or at least from, my vocabulary with people or myself or anything like that. Because there's lots of things I fix, but that's I'm not one of them.
And
We're not
even
one of them.
so, sometimes that is something that we have to communicate. Like, I don't want a solution right now.
Mhm.
I just want you to be here with me. I just want you to hear me. I just want you to listen to me. Right. That's something too that I had to communicate to Zac too, because he did want to fix some stuff for me at the beginning. And even like there's been many times where even I go into fix it mode. We all have masculine energy about us. We all want to go into fix it mode for people that we care about.
So for men, that's always a great one I learned. When your significant other is all upset, kind of just ask them, do you want me to fix this or just like hug you and be here and listen to you? They're completely different and they'll get mad. The other person could get mad if you just shove the other one on them because that's not what they want. So just ask them what they want. But knowing to ask between those two is the first thing. We don't know what we don't know.
Yeah. And when you're coming up with solutions, it can trigger the thought of like, I'm not good enough. Like, so you're trying to come up with
the anxious energy can trigger all your stories.
So gosh, this has been a big journey for both of us, but
Mav's first bath. His first bath, second bath was better. Third bath was
third bath. Was that the third bath? Yeah, I got
train wreck.
Literal shit show.
Not good.
Shit show.
Yeah.
Literal shit in the bath 3 times, one after the other. I'm like, this bath is now a shower.
I wasn't there. I didn't get to see it.
Funny.
But
I'm like, don't panic. It's basically breast milk. I'm just swimming with breast milk that's gone through his intestinal tract. It's okay.
Good place to be in the shower.
He was content. Okay, but so leading up to Mav getting here, so birth story. September 13th, I wake up with cramps. I had cramps for a week leading up to this. I thought every day I was going to go into labor. But a couple clues that led me to it was my appetite kicked up a ton a couple days leading up. And I was just naturally craving more carbs. I'm like, okay, I feel like my body's preparing itself for something because I have that intuitive connection to my body. And this is what's so amazing about developing a connection with your intuition is you notice those subtle shifts. Because if I wasn't as connected, I may have just thought like, gosh, I just want to eat everything, like, and not thought twice about it. But because the 2 or 3 days leading up to the day I went into labor, my appetite did kick up a lot. I did think like, wow, I'm really wanting to eat a lot. My body must be preparing for something. Like it knows it's going to need energy for something. And I just had that feeling. And so I knew that it was coming and woke up at around 8:30 with cramps. Zac had a work call.
So it was about the right time too, right? It was about 9 months.
Oh yeah. Like they gave me a range for my due date. So my due date was, they said between September 11th and 13th, probably. And I gave birth on the 13th.
So sure enough. Yeah. Didn't have to induce. I didn't have to do anything.
Yeah. So my midwife did a home visit week 38. And just to check out the house.
We had been meeting with the midwife every month and stuff.
Every month. Every month. And then brought the pool over because we did a water birth. So we set that up in our living room, got all the lights situated. I like vanilla lighting. So we got all the vanilla lights situated. We had that set up for like a week. I put affirmations throughout the living room on poster boards, which I thought that I would look at during the birth, but I barely had my eyes open for the entire 15 hours. So good thing we did set those up a couple weeks prior because I remembered them and they like became part of my subconscious.
Yeah. Her process of thinking about which ones to do, choosing them, writing them down, so many different ways, just burning that into your brain. So
which is a good hack.
That's your preparation for whenever things are crazy.
If you want something to shift, if you want something, a part of you to be more pronounced or to shift, write it down somewhere that you can just see every single day, multiple times a day and not think about it. Like we had big ass poster boards. We had 3 of them in our living room and I had 3 quotes on each of them. And so we saw them every time we walked into the living room, every time we came down the steps, every time went outside, morning, night, all throughout the day.
It's crazy. Yeah. This whole experience leading up to this natural home birth.
I'm reading these. You're reading them too. We're both reading these signs because you guys have to understand the people that you surround yourself with, their subconscious beliefs are impacting you. There's energetic ties that are being created. It's called quantum entanglement. And there are energetic ties that are being created. And the subconscious beliefs of the people in the room with you at any given time are impacting you. This is why when it comes, they've done a study with doctors, and the beliefs of doctors about their patient's ability to heal impacts their patient's ability to heal. It's fascinating stuff.
That's wild. Yeah.
And so I read about some birth stories, and the husbands were very worried about their wife doing natural birth, and their wife struggled because of that. And so getting Zac on board was really important, because I did not want anybody in the room with me that was worried, that was stressed, that was doubting my ability to do this. That was really important to me. So having him exposed to the posters and the affirmations that we both wrote up was just as important as me reading them. And if you want to shift something in your mindset or in your life, write it somewhere that you can see it all day, every day for a few weeks, and it will become a part of, this is just how I believe. It will become a new belief system. Because I didn't even look at my poster boards when I was in labor. I just knew them, and it had become a part of the process, right?
And that's just like my manifesting matrix, literally affirmations, day, night.
Yes.
You would not have to write them anymore. You just knew them. So think about it. Your subconscious is just processing that, and you're doing it on the daily. So it's like, it makes everything a little bit better. That's some of the hacks that we do. But yeah, prepping to the whole thing. I mean, I felt like we were well enough prepared. We went to some baby classes. We learned different things. It was a 8-week series, and then we had a midwife, and we were prepared. We had our lists of, if we go to the hospital, all of that. Yeah,
but there were things that just I wanted to educate myself, but then there's a point in time where it's like, okay, I don't want to get too cerebral with this. And this is also where I think people kind of fuck themselves, is they're like, I need to know as much as I can about this, because they don't trust their own intuitive knowing. You guys, our intuitive knowing is the most amazing thing about us. And it's because it knows things that we shouldn't know. It guides us to an extraordinary life. Whereas our mind, our logic, will guide us to a logical experience, like one that makes sense. But if you want a reality that doesn't make sense, that's just like crazy things happen in the best way, you have to connect with your intuition. And so my intuition was like, okay, educate yourself enough, but not too much, right? Because you don't want it to become too cerebral. So we don't want to think ourselves into an issue, okay? Because our mind will find issues to think about. That's what the mind does. It looks for problems to solve.
Some people do that outwardly. They're always the ones that are saying, oh, this isn't going to work. Whatever. Oh, watch out for that. And engineers, actually, we're taught to think of all the failure mechanisms so that we can mitigate those so they don't happen, right? But so there's lots of ways that we're actively using that. So of course we're going to use that on ourselves as well.
So definitely watched all the positive home birth videos that I could, because I've always had a fear of birth. I've had a fear that I was going to die in childbirth. And it's just been a big fear of mine since I was a kid. So I was like, okay, well, I don't want to go to the hospital. So I need to do what I can to relax my body throughout this process. And so I watched all the positive birth stories that I could. I read books about positive birth stories, because that's all I wanted to hear is different women's experience that were positive, but different, right? It wasn't a cookie cutter experience. They all had their own, they all had their own process, right? And so that's what I did. And through that, I got a little bit more comfortable. But I didn't learn like the exact process of what it's going to be like when your water breaks, and when you should call the midwife, and when you should wait for this to happen, and when the next phase is happening, right? So the morning of, I had cramps, and then it was like 8:30 to 10:30. They were getting more steady. I was like, okay, I know I'm going into labor today. Zac had a call. You had a work call.
Oh yeah, I had my weekly, manage my real estate people do their thing meeting.
Yeah. So he's in a work call, and I had the worst craving for banana bread.
She just texts me though in the middle of it saying, "Hey, I think I'm in early labor. ... Like, I don't know what the heck else.
Something like, hey,
when you're done with your call.
Yeah, for your, like whenever you're done with your call, I think I'm in early labor.
But then I hear the side door open and close, and then I'm like, what the heck did someone come here? No, it's silent. I'm like, did she leave? Where'd she go? I looked out my back door. Car's gone. I'm like, what's going on now? Right. So I'm calling her, texting her. She's like, hey, I'm just at the store. Like, I wanted to get some banana bread, had this hankering for some banana bread. So
but when he called me, I was like having a contraction in the store. So I'm leaning against the shelf.
So she's
like
hunkered
answering
down.
the phone, like, hello. And I'm like breathing through it. And he's like, hey, where are you? Is everything okay? I'm like, yeah, fine. I just wanted to get some banana bread. So then I get all this stuff. And I'm in line checking out. And this woman in front of me looks at me and she turns around and she's like, wow, you've dropped. And I was like, yeah, I think I'm in early labor. I just really wanted some banana bread. So I wanted to come get stuff so I can make it.
So she listened to her body and she wanted some darn banana bread. And I guess
thank God I did, because that was the last thing I ate for like 12 hours, minus some grapes. But
pretty good.
But yeah, so I came home, I made some banana bread and it was so good. Ate like half the loaf and
yeah, she's going through these pains.
Yeah. And I just like was having regular contractions. Zach's just checking up on me. And then gosh, pretty soon it was like around 2:00 or so. And my contractions are getting more and more regular. I text my midwife, hey, having more regular contractions. They're not all like 5 minutes apart yet, but they're like 5 to 8 minutes apart. She's like, okay, just keep that going for an hour and then let me know what's up. And then about 40 minutes later, not even, I'm standing in the kitchen and I didn't know what to expect when your water breaks, but I knew that it was going to feel more than just like excess fluid. And so I'm just standing there and all of a sudden I look down and there's little drips all over the floor. It wasn't a huge like waterfall breaking. It was just like
not like the movies either. Yeah,
like
I thought it was going to be
swig
something.
of water left in a water bottle and I dumped it over.
Not even a water
But
bottle.
it's so
a
funny
swig left of a
because
water bottle. Yeah.
Zach and we were having a conversation literally an hour before that about bodily fluids and how grossed out he is by bodily fluids, how he could never be a doctor or nurse because bodily fluids.
No.
And,
yeah.
But yeah, when I went into labor,
put up with stuff. Yeah.
I'm just going to be very open.
Yeah.
When I started going into early labor, I'm like, well, this is the last time we're going to have sex for a while. So I was like, babe, sex enhances contractions. It speeds things along. Like, let's go. So,
yeah. The last month we're supposed to have sex, tons of sex.
Yeah. So we had sex, came back downstairs.
That's how you make the baby come out.
And that's when you were telling me about like the bodily fluid thing. Now you're weirded out by that. We were talking about that. And then, and then my water breaks like shortly after that. So then we're standing there and I'm looking at Zach and he like, you have to clean this up because I can't bend over. So we just go through all of this discussion about that. And then you clean it up. And then I go to the bathroom to wipe myself off. And then I come back, sit down in the chair, stand up, and more comes out. And so then he's like, I'm just going to have to follow you around with a paper towel and
squirt bottle,
like I
spray,
do with Lola.
Wipe some.
Lola's our cat.
Yeah. Yeah.
Hey, Laura. And so then it broke there. And I called my midwife and told her that my water was breaking. And she's like, okay, we'll be on our way over. Called my sister. My water broke while I was on the phone with my sister again. It just like kept dripping out. And so then it kept dripping out. I think I did it a couple more times when I got here. And then about that time, by the time the midwives got here, it was about 5. So I'd been in active labor for about 2 hours at that point, but I was still walking around, still talking, totally fine. Just during contractions, I needed to focus on my breath and bend over and just like try to relax. And then you filled up the pool in the 5 o'clock hour. I got in the pool. And then sometimes the pool can speed things along, but it can also relax things. And I noticed that my contractions were just getting a little less intense. So I'm like, okay, I want this process to speed up. So I decided to go for a walk in our backyard.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Little walk around.
Yeah. So went for a walk in our backyard.
Can't do that in the hospital.
No.
Can't walk in nature.
And went for a walk in our backyard. I'm chugging like coconut water throughout this process, drinking electrolytes, trying to keep myself hydrated. So yeah, we go for a walk, me and my sister, just to get some fresh air. And by the time we got back behind the garage, I had a huge contraction. That's when my water like really, really broke. It was like I peed myself. I'm like, I'm not peeing, I'm leaking. Something's happening. Like so much fluid came out. We were like way back in the backyard, the furthest spot away. After that, my contractions went from like every 4 to 5 minutes to every 2 minutes. And so I had about 3 more contractions just walking back to the house from the backyard. You went, oh, he caught a groundhog.
I always have a trap out because they love our garage.
Love getting under the garage.
15 I've caught there, 2 at a time. Little babies, cutest thing ever. Anyway,
we just let them go.
But so I had to let the groundhog go quickly while she's now really water broken.
Yeah, so my water breaks. He realizes there's a groundhog in the trap, so he has to go let that out. But
she has her sister. She's walking in. There's the midwives.
Yeah,
They're
so
all
my
in.
sister helps me get back to the house.
Let me just solve problems.
Yeah. So you take the groundhog to release him. I have like 3 more contractions just walking back to the house. It's maybe 50 yards from where we were. And I'm like, oh my gosh, I was in so much pain. Got back into the house. My contractions really kicked up. At this point in time, it was like 6:30. And so I get back into the pool and I'm just in the pool from 6:30 to like 7:30, 8:30, and contractions just every 2 minutes. Every 2 minutes, I had a 60 to 90 second contraction. So fucking intense because I was in transition period. It was so intense. If you're very unfamiliar with the laboring phases, there's early labor, which is your contractions are starting. Feels like intense period cramps.
That was you that morning.
Yes. Then you shift into active labor, which is when your water breaks and contractions become more regular. About every minute, you have a minute long contraction for every 5 minutes for up to an hour. Okay. And then after that comes transition phase. Transition phase is when your cervix expands from 8 to 10 centimeters. It's the most intense phase of the birthing process, because then that is the pushing phase. And then you give birth to the placenta. It's the afterbirth. So the transition phase is the most intense period. This is where women question their life. They question why they did this. They're cussing out anybody in the room. This is when you see, it's like when you think of birth in a movie, it's probably transition phase. That's kind of like what I would associate.
Yeah, or the pushing after transition, but both of those.
Just like the very intense emotions.
Right. Oh, yeah. Absolutely. Yeah. Uncontrollable. The world is happening to you. Holy smokes.
Yeah. And so for about 2 hours, hour and a half, I was in transition phase, and it was just so intense. Just every 2 minutes, 60 to 90 second contraction. I'm holding on to Zach. I'm like butting my head into your chest, like headbutting it, trying to take my mind off of it.
Headbutting me sometimes, but just like, all this pain. So like having to just brace it, like breathe through it, but it is loud breathing through it.
And I'm screaming. I'm screaming in low tones and just making low tones. It helps open up your root chakra and your pelvic floor. And so I was like groaning and grunting, making very low tones, but very loudly. And I just kept thinking like, rest my jaw, because when your jaw is contracted, so is your pelvic floor. So you want to keep that rested and open, shoulders, and relaxed,
everything down.
And, but there were so many times through that period where my mind was just like, you can't do this. You can't do this. Just quit. You can't do this. Every time my mind told me I couldn't, I would say out loud, I can do this. I can do this. I can do this. I feel like I'm getting emotional thinking about it, because it was so hard. And
it looked very hard.
Yeah. Like, what were you thinking when I was screaming my head off?
Good fucking God. I don't even, like, I'm just there to help. I mean, we've got the backup, but there's 3 midwives. They're very knowledgeable. I swear, like, I feel like they just let me do this in wild because I didn't get a lot of guidance. Number one, it didn't seem like I had a lot of guidance, but I always felt like we were protected and they were there. And I mean, this midwife is the longest standing midwife in the state of Ohio, has birthed 4,000 kids. I mean, and she's got these other ones, but it was a loud experience through it all. And the midwife is just saying, keep the tone lower, as opposed to just like, keeping it lower
Yeah.
so that things can open up. But I mean, when I can only imagine when you're in pain through everything and just trying to feel it all out. Oh my gosh.
Yeah. And different sounds correspond with different parts of your body. So the low grunts and the deep grunts and groans, they correspond with your pelvic floor and your roots. So that's why it's important to do low groans when you're in labor. And so yeah, my mind just kept telling me like, you can't do this, you can't do this, like this is too hard, just give up. And so I kept saying out loud, I can do this, I can do this, I can do this, I can do this, until around 8. I felt like I was going to throw up. And that's when Brenda was like, yeah, you're in transition. Like, this is a good sign that your body's moving through that. So threw up a little bit and then questioned everything and stayed. It was getting too intense in the pool. So we tried laying down on the bed. And I hated that. I hated that. Stayed there for 2 contractions and then went into the toilet. So it's something that's interesting is it was almost an unconscious worry because I wasn't actively thinking about it. But it was an unconscious worry of like peeing or pooping in the pool that I think was kind of keeping parts of my body a little more contracted. So what we did is we went on the toilet and you face the back of the toilet and I'm just sitting on the toilet.
Put a pillow down.
Yeah, put a pillow
blanket,
down.
whatever you need.
Yeah. And a blanket because I was freezing in between contractions. But during the contraction, I was so hot.
How about that?
Yeah. So I'm like blanket on in between contractions, blanket off during contractions. And then I could lean back on Zac and he just held my arms up so I could be dead weight because all I could do was focus on breathing and trying to get rid of the pain. But being on the toilet, it's crazy. Like sitting on the toilet helps so much because you don't have that fear of I'm going to shit in the pool.
Yeah, for sure.
And you can just do whatever you need to do without thinking about like if you're going to pee or whatever. So yeah, I was on the toilet.
And you've got gravity working for you too at the
position.
same time, right? As opposed to be like in stirrups upside down, like all that we think, myself, my dad, I don't know who else, but like that's all we thought that's how babies are born. Surprised. Her mom, my dad, but that's how babies are born because that's all we see. So that's also anything else is like, oh, that's a little odd. Is that safe? Is your first question when actually, yeah, she was safe at home. Everything was good. And I
knew like on some level, I knew like I need to go on the toilet because that's when things will really start progressing. Because you're typically in transition phase for like 30 minutes, like 30 to 60 or 30 to 90 minutes. And I was in transition phase for almost 5 hours. And my midwife said it was an abnormally long time that I was in that phase. And so they kept giving me herbs to help me relax.
They have like tinctures.
Liquid tinctures.
Yeah.
And so I took so many liquid tinctures for like the next 2 hours. And
disgusting flavored.
Yeah, so from 6:30 to almost 11 p.m. every 2 minutes for 60 to 90 seconds, I was having contractions. I was drinking water. I would eat half a grape in between contractions because that's all I could handle. And there were times when I was like, I don't know how I'm going to do this. I need to go to the hospital. Like, this is just, I don't know how I'm going to do this. But then as soon as I thought that, I replaced it with the thought of, I need to trust my body. My body knows what to do. This is pain with a purpose. My body knows what to do. I just need to trust it. And so many of us do not know how to trust our bodies. And I think this is why we fear birth so much, because we don't know what we don't know about ourselves. And because we don't have that intuitive connection with our bodies, we make it a cerebral experience. The mind is based in survival. So, and to survive, you have to be aware of threats, and pain is a threat. And so when you have pain through the birthing process, if you're not connected with your body, your mind is going to say, alert, alert, something is wrong. This is why it's so important for all of us, especially women, to create an intuitive connection with ourselves, or to establish one, or to deepen one if you already have one. You cannot be too connected with your body. And I'm convinced that all of the work I've done up until this point allowed me to have this experience, because if I didn't trust my body and I didn't trust myself and the process that my body was going through, I would have gone to the hospital. And honestly, going to the hospital was my biggest fear. I didn't want to go to the hospital. I wanted to stay at home because I knew if I went to the hospital that there would be intervention, and that's what I wanted to avoid.
Mm-hmm.
And so I had set, like, I was okay. I made my peace going to the hospital, right? Like even Laura, I've worked with you. Laura is one of my very best friends. We met online and I love you, but I've worked with her. She helped me get my mind around like, okay, if I go to the hospital, I have to make peace with this, right? Because typically we will manifest our greatest fears. So I had to have peace with that, but I sure as shit did not want to go to the hospital. So I needed to trust my body, and the work that I've done up until this point really allowed me to trust my body. And having Zac and his trust in me, trusting my body, his trust in me.
I was supportive and process, I knew she could do it. Right. And so it just supports all that a lot more.
And I could feel his support. It would be different if he was fearful. Like, this is why it's so important to get your partners or whoever's in the space with you on board, because if he was fearful, I could feel that, but I could feel his support. I could feel, he was like, okay, gosh, I really want to make sure she's okay. I don't really know what to do exactly.
Because you never actually said that you want to go to the hospital. She was just aware of that feeling. She's aware of herself, but she never actually said that to me. I'm going to tell you, everyone, she was so strong, so amazing through it all. Like there was not a moment where you were really faltering. One time, I think, did you say that you said you had a fear you were going to die in childbirth anyway. That was one of your fears. So my gosh, but no, she was so strong through it all, man. Going through all of that. It was all in my mind. And when I was on the toilet and I was thinking like, oh my gosh, I just need to go to the hospital. I can't do this. I can't do this. Then I would tell myself out loud, I can do this. I am doing this. I can trust my body. I can trust my body. And so every time I thought something negative about the experience, I replaced it immediately with a verbal positive, with a verbal affirmation. And that helped me so much. And if I needed to cry, I cried. If I needed to release something, I released it. I screamed my fucking head off on the toilet. I punched the wall on the toilet. Like, it was not this calm, beautiful experience. It was primal. And I let myself express, and Zac let me express, and my sister let me express, and my midwives were just chilling, letting me express. They're just knitting. One of them's just knitting the whole time, like, yep, you're good.
But they stayed calm, which allowed me to stay calm. And they just kept reminding me, you're doing great. Like, these tinctures are just to help you relax. So I kept thinking like, I need to relax. So every time I had a contraction and the pain was just so intense, I just relaxed. But eventually one of the contractions, I'm like, wait a second. I had this thought. Pain and pleasure sensors in the brain are right next to each other, like the same thing. Like how we anticipate the sensation is what happens. So we can anticipate pleasure and it could be pleasurable. We can anticipate pain and it will be painful, even if it's actually not. And so I'm thinking to myself, like, honestly, I'm just going to be very real and raw. But honestly, I'm like, this contraction feels like if we're having sex and Zac's just very deep. And I'm like, this is how it feels. So I can tell myself this is pleasurable. So I did, and it worked. The pain of the contraction got less. And sorry if that makes you uncomfortable, but it's just what it is. So if it makes you uncomfortable, I apologize. But it worked because my mind then started seeking out other pleasurable experiences to associate with the sensations my body was having. So I kept telling myself, this is pleasurable. This is pleasurable. And it worked. I went from screaming bloody murder to just like low groans, like, I was able to just kind of groan it out. And shortly after that, I felt my first pushing sensation. And that was freaking crazy. Like, that was, so like I've heard, I didn't even know this was a thing until I was pregnant. The fetal ejection reflex. Every woman will experience the fetal ejection reflex, except when you have an epidural, you can't feel when your body naturally wants to push. So when it was about 11 p.m. and I'm like, okay, I just had my first push. I need to get off the toilet, go back into the pool. So you helped me back into the pool. And then from there, I just went to the side. You were supporting me on one side. My sister was supporting me on the other. Shannon, one of my midwives, I was holding her hands. And Shannon had a very mothering energy. And she asked if Zac or my sister wanted to take over and hold my hand. And I could barely muster up any words. I just said no. And this is something so important.
Everyone
too.
stay right where you are.
I did not want anyone to move. I'm like, how the energy feels right now in this moment, it has to stay this way.
Yeah.
No one can move.
It was a good call because it did feel good all around. She had a real good, wonderful, calming energy.
And I was like, no one can move. No one can switch positions. Everyone needed to stay exactly as they were, because exactly how everyone was positioned, the energy felt so supportive and felt so good. And this is another reason why connecting with our intuition is so freaking important, because it's very subtle. Like, you're connected and you could feel like how good the energy felt in that moment.
Absolutely.
And but it's so subtle. And so knowing that how the energy felt in that moment, and knowing that where Shannon was positioned, where Zac was positioned, where my sister was positioned, where Sarah and Brenda were positioned, everyone needed to stay there in order to keep the energy the way that it was. And just one second. Hey, buddy. And so with that, then so I started pushing around 11, and he was born at 11:28. I probably had like 9 contractions. And then with every contraction, there was about 2 or 3 pushes. And it is so crazy to feel your body naturally just want to push down and bear down. And then all you have to do is trust your body. And all I had to do was just trust the sensation and trust the experience and just push as hard as I could until I could feel him moving through the birth canal. And then once he got close, then my midwife started coaching me through the process, because he came out very fast. They were very shocked at how short my pushing phase was. And so he came out very fast, started feeling burning around the opening of the vaginal canal. And he started crowning, so I could feel his head. I could like feel the very tip of his head.
And had you reach back?
Yeah,
and you
Sarah
could
had
feel
me
his head.
reach down and feel it, because I was on my knees.
As you've already been feeling him lower and lower and lower.
Yeah, it's crazy. I could feel him moving lower and lower throughout my pelvis. And then I could feel like every time he shifted to like get better position in my pelvis, I could feel it. And then when we were in the pool, I was on my knees and I'm supporting myself on the side of the pool on my elbows. Zac's rubbing my right shoulder. My sister has my left, and I'm holding on to Shannon's hands. And with every contraction, my eyes are just closed. I'm just focusing on him moving down. And one thing that I did too is with every contraction, I didn't tell myself it was a contraction. I told myself it was just a wave of energy. A wave of energy. I just needed to ride this wave. And so I imagined myself riding a wave into shore. And that's how that also helped me breathe through the contractions as well. So when I was pushing and I was bearing down and he got really close, my midwife, Brenda, she's like, do you feel the burning? And I said, yes, it burns. And she said, okay, that means he's close. So then the next contraction, the next push, he crowned, and then they're like, okay, we can see his head. And then baby's head's out, and they're like, you need to push slow because we don't want you to tear, because he came out so fast. So I did like 2 half pushes. He came out, and then they're like, okay, you're going to probably have to wait a little bit for the body to come out. But then nope, like 30 seconds later, it was a half push. I'm like, baby's out. And then he was out. His umbilical cord was wrapped. Sarah had to unwrap his umbilical cord from his neck, which is normal.
We had it around his neck. He had it around his leg, and he was holding on to it. Yeah. So, I mean, all those fears about it being wrapped around something anyway. Yeah, they're always entangled in that, like their little toy.
So Sarah did that
of life.
And then I pulled him up through my legs. I leaned back, and he came out of the water like eyes wide.
Yeah.
It was so crazy.
He was wide-eyed, seriously.
Staring at us.
Looking at both of us.
And then he took his first breath maybe in 7-10 seconds.
Yeah. Just right there.
Yeah, it was so crazy.
Doing anything crazy.
And then within 20 minutes, the placenta stopped pulsating. His cord stopped pulsating.
The placenta, so you don't pull it out like the hospital does right away so the doctor can leave. You just let it naturally pump all those nutrients and all that blood back into baby, and it'll turn white. The cord will turn white when it's done. and it won't have a pulse.
Something we didn't know until
on
Brenda told us when we interviewed her.
Yeah, kind of like an
Yeah.
octopus. When you kill an octopus, it
Yeah.
turns stark white, whatever color it is. It's the same type of thing. It's interesting. But then they give me funky scissors to go and cut this
Yeah.
umbilical cord. I'm like, really? You want me to cut that like right here, right there? They're like, yeah. And like I had to like snip through it to get through. It's like, oh God, what is going on? But it's like felt wrong cutting this bleeding life between my baby son and my baby mama. But you know, it was spectacular. And then he's detached and
you took him, and then I birthed
I could
the
hold on to
placenta.
him. And while she's doing a couple more contractions, gets
I had to push the placenta out
at that point.
And then I was just like relaxing, and I did not tear. I did not tear at all. I trusted my body. I listened to my body. I listened to my midwives when they coached me. You could
feel your body because you weren't numb from everything. I could feel
my body, and I did not tear. And my midwives were shocked that I didn't tear because of how fast he came out and how short my pushing process was. They were like, oh my gosh, we are shocked that there's no tears. But it's awesome just because I trusted my body. I listened to my body. I listened to Brenda when she told me to slow down my pushes a little bit. I did little half pushes. I had to hold back a little bit because my body wanted to push a little harder. So I did have to like hold back a little bit, but it took like 2 half pushes for his head to come out and then another half push and his body was out. And yeah, no tears, minimal bleeding. They were shocked at how little I bled as well. And yeah, everything was great. Vitals were great afterwards. He was great afterwards. 8 pounds, 3 ounces, 21 inches, 11:28 p.m.
Super adorable.
Yeah, so freaking adorable. And yeah, and then I just rested on our pull-out bed for the whole night. I didn't even sleep because I was just like, holy shit.
Midwives left at around 2:30 after doing their vitals, checking them, teaching me how to put my first diaper on.
Zac did his first diaper.
So that's interesting at 2 a.m. with a new baby, right? Yeah. Drained the pool outside, flopped the ghibli bits of extra stuff out.
They threw everything outside, and the next
backyard.
Morning there was like 5 crows in the backyard at like
Pecking,
7 a.m.
tearing apart
like,
something.
Is there this much birdseed out there? And Zac's like, wait, where'd everything go? And that they threw out in the yard.
So I wanted to go look at it the next day. She's like,
oh, that's what happened.
So they got a wonderful breakfast too.
Circle of life.
Yep. Supernatural.
Yeah.
Yeah, and then we wake up and we've got new baby in our living room. We don't, and we're already home. There's no get ready to come home.
So nice being home. It was so nice. It was just so relaxing, so peaceful. The next morning, he slept in because, he stayed downstairs with me, but then around 4 or 6, I told you to go upstairs. And the next morning, it was just so nice. Like, I made breakfast. I made us breakfast.
Yeah, shucks. That was a great morning breakfast, right?
Yeah, I made us breakfast but like I needed to rest more. So in the following days, I definitely rested more. I stopped cooking, but yeah, I just relaxed, and postpartum depression has not been a thing that I've experienced, thankfully.
Yay.
And although there have been sad moments, definitely.
Sure. And it's getting back into the swing. I'll tell you what, we're both people that like to achieve and give out there and do things and help other people. So, having this pause where she has to just help herself right now is, a little not troublesome, but it's just something she's grappling with at the moment. As an entrepreneur, we don't have any paid time off, but you need to take that. And we've both been preparing for that, and we've got the time to do all that. But just as an entrepreneur, we've got that drive that always wants to be doing more. We should, trying to achieve more. So I tell her that she's good, she's fine. She's got to take the mandatory 12 weeks off just to relax.
Well, not even like doing more. It's just doing. Yeah, I see. It's just doing something that brings me joy. Right. But right now he is.
And that's the important shift that you're noticing, is doing something that brings you joy. So just getting outside.
And so that's basically what I'm doing too, is I'm looking for ulterior ways to experience enjoyment. And something that has been a game changer that I have adopted, the mindset is we have heard so much from so many different people. We've heard like the newborn phase is the most amazing thing ever. It's most challenging. It's hard, whatever. But I've
that
always
guys don't connect to the baby because it's all the mom, which, you know, I can understand why, but
I feel like you've done a great job connecting with him.
Oh my
too.
gosh.
And
yeah.
so it's like we're rewriting all of these narratives that we've been told and that we've heard. And
you can, you don't have to have, that story that's out there.
Yeah.
You can have whatever story you want that's out there.
Yeah. And just hearing it's the hardest time of your life, or it's so stressful, or it's just a very difficult, challenging time. Like,
but I would hear from other people too, and those would resonate more with me, that it's just like, that's an amazing time. Like, love it. Like, you know, appreciate all those things. Like, it just gets better and better and better all the time. And I'm like, you know what? Thank you. Like, that's awesome, because that's the type of energy that we'll have with him. And, you know, it's that whole thing. If you're some of the people around you, you're an energetic, like you're on that vibration of other people that are around you. So, you know, choose the ones that support the story, that uplifts you, that gets you where you want to be. But it starts with awareness.
And
of all that.
And so one thing that has really helped me is, because I think I was so anxious and experiencing depressive symptoms throughout my pregnancy,
hyper aware of it.
And I tried to like make good of what I could, but because I feel lighter now, I have that awareness of looking back on my pregnancy and hating some moments, but like trying to make the best of it and trying to like do what I could and just being more compassionate with myself. So now I always remind myself, like, in 3 months down the road and a year down the road, I could look back on this time period and think, wow, I hated that time, or wow, that time was so hard, or wow, I really let that time define me and who I am. Or I can look back on this time period and say, wow, I totally enjoyed that time period. This time period I became the type of person that I absolutely admire. I created an amazing experience for myself and our family. And so I think about that every single day. I think about that. And when he's crying, I think about, I could freak out right now, or I could I could stay calm. I could keep him calm. I could bring love into this experience right now. What am I choosing? And that question alone, like just that thought process alone, has really given me so much peace throughout this time period. And even when Zac has a baby, like last night, Zac took Mav so I could sleep.
Getting in the hang of it once I got some extra bottles going so that I could do something more useful.
And I heard Mav crying, and I immediately wanted to like panic text you. Or
you did. You panic announced me. You panic text me too afterwards.
I did once of each. But then after that, I'm like, okay, I have to.
And I couldn't even respond. I was just handling him.
I know. I'm like, I have to trust this. I have to trust the process. I have to trust that Zac cares just as much as me, because my mind is saying like, you need to be there. You're the one that knows best and all of this stuff. And I'm like, no, I can choose to trust him or not. And I'm choosing to trust him. I'm choosing to trust this experience. And it's just like recognizing that you always have a choice, recognizing that your experience is defining you as you allow it to. And you can choose whatever experience you want to have to look back on. And that, I think, has been really powerful for me over the last few weeks, is deciding I'm going to choose to enjoy this. I'm going to choose to let this be a time period of like an amazing, not even like bounce back, but an amazing rewrite of who I'm choosing to be in this phase of my life. Like whoever I've been in the past, that's who I've been, but who do I want to become? And just really allowing myself to lead with that question every day of like, how do I want to look back on this day? How do I want to look back on this time period? And I think that just that little shift can help so many people in their day to day, when maybe you're procrastinating, or maybe you're just being really hard on yourself, or maybe you are just in a funk and it's been a few days and you're letting something that's happening in your life define you, or you're giving it meaning about who you are, or how you're showing up, or what it means about you. And we can always change that. We can always rewrite that.
Heck yeah.
And so I've been really trying to do that every single day. And right now that's just how I'm being a mother. And pretty soon I'll add in how I'm being a business owner, and it's how I'm being a partner. And so I'm not overwhelming myself by doing all the things at once. Like right now I'm focusing this on a mother and a partner. And next I'm bringing in business owner. Like that's tomorrow when my mom comes and watch Mav.
You guys think she's being a good mother through this whole thing, the healthy, all of that? Give me a heck yeah. Good mama. Some love for the mama bear, because it's such a healthy pregnancy through the whole thing. Gosh, making sure that you had a natural birth. You're amazing. I love you. That's I can't wait for all the fun that we're going to have with him. Isn't she going to be the best mom in the world? Oh my gosh. Yeah.
Sweet babe. So I guess that we did get through our birth story in one episode. We didn't know if it would take one or two. I know that we're a little over an hour. So if you watched all of this and you're still watching, we appreciate you so much. We hope that you enjoyed our story. I know I talked a lot, but it's my story.
Yeah, and if you want any information about midwives or anything like that.
We've learned so much over the last 10 months.
And we love sharing things with people. So feel free to ask questions, even afterwards, whenever. And that's good. And so now we're going to start doing some little baby growing. So if you got any baby advice too, anyone have any baby advice for, I'm going to just say me, but for any of us?
Sorry, go on.
I was just for any of us.
I was going to say, like you saying baby advice made me think of this. It's crazy how much my intuition has picked up with him. Like, I'll know when he's about to pee. Even when he pooped in the bathtub, I knew it was going to happen. It was so crazy. Like right before we got into the bath, I'm like, he's going to poop in the bathtub. I just have a feeling that it's going to happen. But I'm like, whatever, if it does. And it did 3 times. and it is the mother's intuition thing. I've always heard about it, but it's crazy being so connected to my intuition and just seeing it expand and evolve into being connected with him is such an incredible experience. And I'm so grateful that I created a relationship with my intuition prior to having kids, because seeing how it's evolved through my relationship with him is incredible. And like, even with Zach, I think it was like last week or something, I felt like there was something off, and I'm just like, something feels a little off with you. And because sometimes you'll try to work through it and then tell me. And eventually you told me like, well, I have this in my mind and this in my mind and this in my mind. And I know I project sometimes, but even with you, like with our relationship, our intuition, I think is really good. It has helped us be able to communicate with the other one when the other one might be a little withholding.
Oh yeah. Yeah, for sure. Everything. I mean, her and I are getting closer and closer. Yeah. Being able to feel each other naturally. Yeah.
And like having such a supportive partner has been such an incredible experience as well. And that's why I am creating a course. I'm in the process of creating a course. I was doing it before I gave birth, of how to using your intuition to find a partner, for our relationship. Yeah. To find a great partner. It's not like I'm not a relationship coach, but I am an intuitive development coach. And so helping people utilize their intuition to find a partner that maybe wasn't your typical type at first.
No, but helped guide me through that.
Sight, but definitely happily ever after.
Yeah, absolutely. It's that thing of you don't know what you need, or, you can't see the tree for the forest, or it's just a whole bunch of weird sayings. But at the end of the day, it's like you don't know what you don't know. And that she helped me navigate things that I didn't know. Mm-hmm. And aware of a lot of things within myself. And that's what I'm sure many of you know that she does for all of you as well. She helps everyone navigate what's in themselves first so they can navigate the world around. I love it. You'll be seeing what she ends up doing for this little nugget right over here. But you'll see all of our story, taking them from 0 to infinity and beyond.
Yeah. Well, all right, guys. So we appreciate you watching. Nice. And we will see you next Monday, where we pick up with the chakras again. We're talking about the throat chakra. Oh, good one, bud.
Yeah, burp it out, bud.
Yeah.
Good?
Yeah.
Right on.
There you
Hey,
go to the
thanks for
comments.
being with us, everyone. Here's we got a couple comments. Love it, love it. Send in lots of love. Absolutely. Thank you, everyone.
Yeah.
Have a great rest of your week.
Have a great week.
Take care.
Yeah. Bye.